Bellerin! Bellerin! It's a Bellerin!
Owned by Mustafi. Bellerin! Brilliant! 2-2!
Hector Bellerin, Bellerin.
The 3-4-3 has run out of steam. All right, welcome everybody to the latest edition of Saved by the Bellerin, the Arsenal football video podcast here on the Sports Talk Line Network. I'm Raphael, joined as always by my UK cohorts, Sam. Welcome, Sam.
Hello, mates. Hope everything is well.
And Ryan. Welcome back, Ryan.
Hello, mate. Hope you're doing
Lot
good.
to digest. A lot of it's frustrating. Arsenal went to the Etihad after the break, looking for a result, looking for points after a comeback, after a win to take them into the international break against Southampton. We were optimistic with the addition of Thomas Partey that Arsenal would be more forceful. They'd have a lineup that could be more even-handed. They could go more toe-to-toe. We saw the injury reports out of City that gave us even more hope that there could be better results. And then we sat for 90 minutes and waited for the punch to come, and it didn't. And it just didn't. There came a point late in the match where we were talking to each other and said, it seems that the approach, Ryan, I'm going to start with you, was, this is a club that's beaten Arsenal 3-0 almost consistently for the last 2-3 seasons. It seemed this time that Mikel Arteta's goal was to lose only by one. And that's not what any of us anticipated going into the match.
Yeah, I think Arteta's approach was more don't lose than be exposed and win. We've seen Arsene Wenger go to away to the top six and get absolutely turned over by trying to attack and trying to beat these teams toe for toe. But Arteta, as much as I find it boring and I'm unable to watch for 90 minutes because we don't really create anything, I'm enjoying how defensive stability we have, because we've got the second best defense in the league right now, and we've played Liverpool and City away. So I know it's a loss, and I know it was boring, but it's not something we've seen before. Arsenal was solid for most of the game, one mistake, and they've taken advantage of it. And that's due to the players they do have up front. So one mistake from Bellerin letting the player come inside, and that's it. They've scored. So I think if Arteta can get the balance between our defense and our attack, I think we'll be in a much better situation.
Sam, let's talk about that balance, because it wasn't there. And, part of the formation has been a whipping boy, 3-4-3. He's been using this very defensive formation. It's got him through the COVID. It got him to the FA Cup. It's gotten him through the early part of the season. He had Gabriel. He had Tierney. He didn't have Rob Holding. Did his absence really affect Mikel's decision that much, or was 3-4-3 already made up in your opinion?
I think 3-4-3 was already made up. The thing for me is, if you look at the game against City in the Cup semi-final and looked how open Man City were in that game, looking at the game now, Man City really adapted their tactics. They were not as open. I see on Sky Sports that they were doing the analysis of the game, and they were talking about how Man City changed from a 4-2-4 to a 3-3-4. So basically, they had four against our three at the back at all points. They're, depending on what side they come down, their fullback tucked in to make an extra central midfielder to really try and isolate Kieran Tierney against Mahrez. It looked like Mahrez was their main attacking threat, But for us, I don't think that we recognise that in the first instance. We look at Mikel Arteta, and he usually adapts his formation to it. But that didn't seem to happen. We was very respectful of Man City, which we needn't have been. And to be perfectly honest with you, the inclusion of Willian as number 9, I know Arteta said that was the game plan, but to me that was very baffling. I think that he needs to have a couple of weeks on the bench, because he had the one brilliant game at Fulham. Since then, he's done nothing. So I think that it was definitely an opportunity missed.
Ryan, let's stay with that, because again, we talked about in the pregame that the anticipation was Arsenal would try to press City, because they do have problems when other squads press them. But it seems that the real defining issue of the first half and much of the second half is that Arsenal had a lot of difficulty with their press, was having difficulty getting out of their own half. A lot of long passes that were intercepted. They would struggle to get possession, get it, and then immediately give it back. And we're looking for midfield. And as Sam pointed to something, Willian was in the center. He started on the left. Aubameyang was central. Very quickly in the match, they changed places, and he found himself as kind of the central forward, almost as central, as you said, the number 9. But that's not. We kept looking for an option to release somewhere in the center of the park. It seemed there was no Arsenal player in the middle to give relief to this pressure, or for the longest time anyway.
Yeah, and I can see Arteta's logic behind having Willian in a false 9 position, because if he gets it right, Willian has the quality to play either winger through on goal, and that was our aim: play through the press, get the ball to Willian in the false 9 position, and have the pace in behind. But what we didn't anticipate was City playing 3 at the back with Ake on one side and Walker on the other. They're two of their fastest defenders against our fastest attackers. And obviously Pep Guardiola has outthought Arteta there by putting them two up against our best forward players. And for me, because we couldn't get out of their press, having Willian in a false 9 was just pointless, because he has no hold-up qualities. If we was going that way, we should have played Lacazette. And we always moan about him dropping too deep and becoming a midfielder, but he would have literally been perfect for that kind of role that Arteta was trying to play. And this 3-4-3 is people are realizing how we play now, and it's becoming too predictable. We're starving our 2 wide players, who I know what he's trying to do with them by making them dart inside with the middle player dropping deep, like Firmino does for Mane and Salah, but at Liverpool. But it's just not working now, and we need to find another way of attacking, because Aubameyang's literally getting nothing. He scored 1 goal this season, and I saw a statistic today that Aubameyang has missed 10 goal scoring chances. Robert Lewandowski, just to put it in perspective, missed 40 last season. So Aubameyang's getting half of the service and still scoring 20 odd goals. If we can just find a way of getting him into the game a little bit more, then I think we'll be all right. But again, I saw the logic, and if he got it right, Willian would have been great if we could play through the press. But as Sam said, they played with a different formation than we expected. They had 4 players on our 3 all the time, so we had no options coming out. Granit Xhaka and Ceballos, as press resistant as they are, they had no options in the wide positions or going forward. So they've got their backs to the play all the time. And when we know with Xhaka, when he receives the ball with his back to the defender, to the opposition attacker, he's not very good, because he doesn't turn. He's not very mobile like Ceballos is. So they crowded Ceballos out with Rodri and Bernardo Silva. So it was difficult they literally suffocated us up front.
And it made for a very, very exhausting match as an observer. But let's go beyond this. Again, this is Man City. Obviously, they've got the talent. They can play this. But Arsenal's got some difficult teams coming up on their schedule immediately. Sam, let's stay with the 3-4-3. The statistic came out. This is very early in the match, in on the American broadcast. Arsenal are in the bottom quartile in the Prem this season in shots created. So it seems that it's not simply Man City who seems to be figuring this formation out. Going forward, Arteta, where he's at a point now where it seems like he's going to have to make a major adjustment in how he wants to do things. Let's talk about it. Approach it from a tactical position. Was this simply a manner? We know it was a manner of necessity, but does he now have the talent to adapt with Thomas Partey? Now we only got to see him for 10 minutes, but is he enough to make a change that can, allow this attack to unlock? Because this is not just a one-off that we've seen in Man City, not this season anyway.
Yeah, within that 10-minute cameo that Thomas Partey had, you could instantly see what he's going to bring to this team. You could just see the strength and drive that he had, and obviously I think that his instruction when he come on was to be wary of anything coming in onto our central defence, because he was hovering back a little bit. But moving forward, as I've always advocated for, a 4-3-3 will be the best possible formation for this team, because in the middle of midfield, you've got one box-to-box in Thomas Partey that's able to get about, drive. He has got quite good vision as well. Then you've got Dani Ceballos. He can play a bit further forward, be the main creator in that midfield. And with Xhaka, he can play at the base, but where he's got two players that are able to get around the pitch quickly, then he's going to have a bit more protection at the base of that midfield, and he can pull the strings in terms of any short or long balls that are going into the forwards. And moving into the forwards, obviously, unfortunately, if we have Aubameyang on the left wing, he's going to be able to get more service in and down behind, because we've got two players in the middle of that midfield that are able to get up into the opposition's final third, play intricate passing, and thread him through. Alternatively, if we have him in the middle, then again he's going to have a lot more creation in that side. Same with Pepe as well. If he starts out on the wide right, he will have a lot more space for isolating their opposition fullbacks. Because if we look at Arsenal right now, do we really isolate their opposition fullbacks? No. We are literally so predictable on our build-up. We'll build up down the right-hand side with some passes in our half of the pitch. It'll get to about a quarter of the way into the opposition half. We look to play that one player inside. They'll turn out. We'll do a big diagonal switch over to Aubameyang, and hopefully that he'll have a shot, and hopefully it goes in. That is how predictable Arsenal is at the moment. And it happens every single time. Now, if you're playing a 4-3-3, as I was speaking about in the last pod, that gives us a lot more balance. It gives us unpredictable avenues when attacking, because obviously you've got the two central midfielders working in tandem with your two wide players, and that gives the centre forward a lot more space in which to operate. Now, if you think with Pepe, if he can isolate a defender one-on-one, we've seen him make numerous defenders look absolutely silly. If you're looking on the other side, I would personally have Willian over there. But with him, he can isolate and go past the player. But we really need that player to really drive. And if we're talking about that, we could possibly put Saka in there as well. Because we all know the boy is going to be an absolute world beater when he matures a little bit more. And if he's able to interplay with a forward and a central midfielder and play the triangles in the final third, we all know what Arsenal do with intricate passing, and we know how good it can be at times. It's just we need to get back to that idealism and get back to that quite quickly, because the way that we are right now, I think we're 16th in chances created. That's not good enough. As an Arsenal fan, that's not what we want to see. Yes, we've been crying out for years to say we need to strengthen this defence and make sure we've had that defensive stability. Now we've got that. We need to rediscover our attacking prowess, and we need to do that very soon.
Let's go to it, Ryan. In-house, Sam says change formation, put an extra body in the midfield. But let's talk about the attack, as he's saying. You had Saka, you had Pepe. We had Willian. I'm sorry. Saka was playing further behind him, but it seemed that in terms of attacking prowess, Saka was the most aggressive, had the best chances. There was a collarbone away from evening the match. He came quite close. As he said, shows some real zeal, shows a real desire to get in the box and take a shot. Looking forward, if you're trying to build more attacking, obviously, where would you put Aubameyang, and who would be his partners on the wing to get more shots, to get more action, to get more, as we said, I don't know if we're moving away from the old tired term Arsenal football, but have to redefine that. But what should the new Arsenal football look like?
For me, the front three has to be Saka, Aubameyang, and Pepe. It has to be. There's no two ways about it. Pepe on the right, Saka on the left, and Aubameyang through the middle. That is the scariest front three we could play until Martinelli is back, and then that's a different story. But Saka needs to play. As Sam said, he's going to be an absolute world beater. We saw against City how good he is. He got on the ball. He made things happen. Should have scored. Should have created another one. But just to jump on Sam's point of us being predictable, when we play a 3-4-3, I was talking to someone on Twitter about this, because we have no midfielder in the center of the pitch, like in the attacking areas. The central midfielders of the opposition can move out wide and stop our winger. Then they're triple teaming our right winger. Pepe can't cut inside on his left foot like he wants to. Before lockdown, when we played the 4-2-3-1 with Ozil in the number 10, defensive midfielders had to sit on Ozil, because you give him space, he's going to kill you. And Pepe had all the space in the world. And I think if you remember, he had 5 assists and 2 goals in them games when Arteta took over, because he was pinging the ball from the right to the left and Aubameyang was scoring. That's how we attacked, because we had a midfielder in the centre attacking area, so that defensive midfielders don't go out wide. You look at it now, Pepe's getting triple teamed. On Saturday, he had Ake, Cancelo, and Bernardo Silva, all triple teaming him at once. Bellerin's not making the overlap run for whatever reason. So Pepe's going to have to beat 3 or 4 players just to create a chance. By that time, I know full well he's going to be absolutely shattered trying to beat these 4 players. And it's the same on the other side of Aubameyang. And Aubameyang does not have the technical ability to beat 3 or 4 players and then make a threaded pass. I love Aubameyang a lot. He's my favourite player in the current Arsenal team. But putting it bluntly, he doesn't create chances. He's not a chance creator. He's a goal scorer. So he has to play through the middle. And you have Saka on the left who can beat a man, Pepe who can beat a man, and then have Ceballos in the attacking area. So it gives us a bit something different. So that, as I said, the central defensive midfielders can mark Danny Ceballos, so they're out of the game. Bellerin overlaps, takes the winger with him. Pepe's 1v1.
So let's talk. Finish it. Sorry, I cut you off.
And we know full well Pepe, as Sam said, can beat any defender in the world. We've seen him destroy PSG. We saw him destroy Robertson and Van Dijk. we saw him destroy so many defenses last season, and he wasn't even fully adapted. You put him up 1v1 against any defender in the world, I guarantee he'll beat him.
Which brings us to the next question. You said a name, and we're going to use his name. I mean, you were talking about Mesut Ozil being kind of a linchpin, right? We know his career at Arsenal is pretty much over. It was not pretty much. It is over. He was not put into the squad today going forward for international matches. So, Sam, given that, and given that the club needs a player with that skill set to play in the middle of the park, who do they have who can do this right now, today? Who's best suited for that role? And do we need to go out? I know you posed the question on your Twitter feed yesterday, trolling for names. Got quite a lot of interesting responses from the readers and the listeners.
Yeah, I think internally, 100% Dani Ceballos. Externally, I know this will be a big outlay. My number one pick would be Jack Grealish. And obviously, we know that he signed an contract in. I say it'll be a big outlay, but I think in this team, he'll be. I know Ryan's a big fan.
Yeah, is it?
He's
I know a man who contributes personally to the fund to bring him in.
And with him, he's literally a ball carrier. He can play that decisive pass. Isco was another shout, again by Ryan to come in. A lot of people are still saying Aouar. Julian Brandt from Borussia Dortmund. Because there was a time when we was linked with him, and I was very excited with that link, because I think that him in right across that top three, he can unlock defenses and he can be a very good creator. Szoboszlai.
Let's just try it. Throw it out there, right? Dominic, the young Hungarian, right?
Yes, the young Hungarian. Obviously, he's been highly coveted by Arsenal for a number of years. I know in some of that he's got a 22.5 million euro release clause. That's easily obtainable for a club of our size. The one concern I've got with that is he will need a adaptation period, as we all know. The Austrian league isn't the strongest, if you compare that against the Premier League. But he has been playing against some top sides in Europe. So it'll be interesting to see how he would adapt to the Premier League, the quickness and the rigours of it. Bundia from Norwich is another shout that people were throwing up. But for me, it wouldn't be somebody that I would be going for. Had an interesting reply from Hobart on Twitter. Hobart 1976. He turned around and said he'll be controversial and say nobody. So just out of curiosity, I asked what was his reasoning behind that. And he turned around and said the initial thought would be to have a midfield three with Saka at the base, Saka and Partey either sides as a V. But he suspects that Partey will play at the base and then would need an equivalent to Saka on the right-hand side of midfield, which could be Dani Ceballos. But obviously he's basing that on the 10-minute scene of Partey, so he's still guessing. But he thinks Arteta wants to play out from the back and at pace. It's clear Xhaka struggles to pass quickly to avoid the press, so I think his time is maybe up soon. Partey looked comfortable receiving and releasing as well as driving with the ball, which suits Arteta's systems. That will leave us needing a box-to-box player, maybe not this season, but next. A Ray Parlour Rocastle type that can drive with the ball, but also drop back to double uppers on a fullback, which is an interesting assessment because that's what we've more or less been saying on the pod in terms of the midfield of what we would essentially need. So the names that have been thrown out, some interesting, some personally I wouldn't go for, but for me it has to be Grealish. We've got to try that avenue.
That's a name that would make you very happy, Ryan. You've been bullish on him. He's been the first name really going back on your wish list, Ryan's Christmas wish list before it was for last Christmas. It was Jack Grealish. His price has gone up clearly. He's got a new contract. His team is starting well. Let's start with the same questions then. In-house, it's October 20th. Arsenal still have 6-7 weeks before the window opens, and they can even consider new players. How do they make do right now? Obviously, we said they need to spark the attack. Who can they put in the middle of the park of the available talent who can fill that role best right now? Let's start with that.
I'm gonna be bullish on this name. I've said this name a few times. I'm gonna say 3 words: Emil Smith Rowe. When he has confidence and when he's fully fit, I believe he can start for our first team. I watched him in the Europa League under Emery and he was unbelievable. Give him Arteta and that he was going to be something else. He can play as a number 8, can play as a 10, can play on the left, can play on the right. He can even play as a false 9. He is someone I rate very, very highly. And a lot of people on Twitter are like, can we wait for him? Yes, you wait for someone like him. Whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 months, you wait for a player like that. He could be our Jack Grealish and we save 100 million and spend it somewhere else. So in-house, I'd say Emil Smith Rowe. And if we're signing
Go outside.
If we're signing from outside, I said Isco because I think he's only still 26, which is fairly young. He's coming into his prime. I don't see him ever being used that much for Real Madrid. I don't know if he's been injured but I never see him in their 11 or coming on as a sub. And I watch Madrid quite often. And if they don't allow us to sign Ceballos permanently, I'd say to him, well, let us sign Isco then, because he can play 8, 10, either side. So, and he's the type of player Mikel Arteta loves. A ball carrier. He has the end product. He can score goals. He creates them. And he's got the necessary winning mentality, which Edu mentioned in his interview after the deadline day. So Isco would be my choice realistically. And if we had 150 million to spend, it would be Jack Grealish.
All right. Go back to you.
Raf, sorry. Can I just add another name in there?
Okay.
Another name that I want to throw in to that mix is Christopher Nkunku from RB Leipzig.
Okay.
Because 10, and I think he got something along the line, if I'm looking correctly, if this will load. Yeah, he got 5 goals last season and 13 assists, and that's this first season in the Bundesliga. Obviously, we was very much linked with him from his move from PSG. I think that he would be somebody that would suit Arteta's system to be the opposite side to Thomas Partey. Again, another ball carrier, fantastic with passing, very energetic. I'd test RB Leipzig's resolve and see whether or not he would be somebody that we could tempt away.
My dogs are excited by Christopher Nkunku as a name. Let me ask you guys as necessity, right? Going into January, right? And we've talked about who do they have inside? Do they need to go outside? Ryan, I'm going to start with you and I'll come back to you. You can revisit this one in a minute, Sam. But how urgent is it for Arsenal to go out in January? Is this something that went unfulfilled because they didn't get a war? Is this just something now that they need to press forward if they want to keep track? Because they're, we haven't talked about Liverpool and the injury to Van Dijk, but it seems we look at the results this last weekend, really for the first 5 weeks, nobody's running away with the league right now. It's kind of there to be grabbed if Arsenal wants to be bold. We'd like to see them do that, but is it really urgent for them to do it now?
I think it all depends on the situation that we're in come January. Because if for example, Ceballos is playing there and he's doing well, or Smith Rowe is playing there and he's doing great, or we've actually found a formation that balances both attack and defense. I personally, if we can't get our top target, I wouldn't want a stopgap. If we want our top target, we wait for him. If that's Aouar, Grealish, or whoever it is. There's been too many times where we've gone out and brought a player that we don't really want, and we're stuck with him for 5 years. AKA Socrates, Mustafi, all these types of players. And then we're making big money losses on them, and then it's hurting us in the future. So I would, if we're in a good situation in January and no one of our top targets are available, I'd say I would pursue with what we have. But if we're still in the situation we're in now and we get to January and we're still in the bottom half of chances created and we haven't got that balance, I'd go all out for an attacking midfielder that is our top target. Aouar, Szoboszlai, Isco, Grealish, that sort of player that can bring the little spice to our team.
All right. Similar with Sam, for you, Sam. Is this an urgent need in your opinion?
Yes. I think that a creative midfielder is imperative in the January window, because we know that Arteta said that he's not realistically going to be relying on youth this season because he doesn't want to burn them out. So for me, I think that Edu and Arteta needs to be drawing up a 3-man shortlist of who would be obtainable in the January window, and have a 3-man shortlist and just cycle through and see whether or not we can get one of the 3 players. I think actually we probably need 2 creative midfielders for rotation purposes also, but obviously one that's the absolute main target and one that's going to be a rotational option and to implement that rotation in with the likes of Emil Smith Rowe, Saka if he comes inside, Joe Willock. But obviously we've got to also be very wary of our squad registration issues, because that, as no doubt we'll talk about in a little bit, that's a massive concern at the moment. But is it fixable right now? I don't know.
Yeah, still about 10 weeks till that window opens. Europa League is coming up. It's kind of barreling right towards us. Arsenal goes on the road to open the Europa League. Their group, as you mentioned, both of you mentioned, does not appear, at least on paper, to be the strongest in the short term, with Leicester City and with United looming in the Prem roster. How strong a team do you think Mikel is going to send out in that first match, Ryan?
I think it'll be second string. No disrespect to Rapid Vienna or anything like that. I'm sure they're a good team in the league, but when you're up against Arsenal, our second string should do the job. For me, the team would be Runnison, Cedric, Holding's injured now. Probably Luiz, maybe if Mustafi's back, and then Kolasinac. Midfield, Elneny, Willock, Smith Rowe, and there's the front 3 of Nelson, Nketiah, and Saka. That would be my second string. I believe that is strong enough to win that game, especially with Leicester at the weekend.
Let's talk about Leicester now. Sam, big match for so early in the season. Arsenal, as we recall, we're playing them down the stretch. One of the real heartbreaking I'm not going to say a loss, it was a 1-1 draw, but one of the heartbreaking results of the COVID run-in, where it still looked like they could grab a Europa spot without having to go through the FA Cup door. But they were leading, they were playing them at the Emirates. They were up 1-0, they were in total control, very comfortable. And then just out of the blue, this very unfortunate red card to Eddie Nketiah turned everything. They gave up a late goal. There's a different squad now, though. They've got Gabriel at the center of the defense, but then at the same time, a lot of the same players. How would they approach this one differently? I mean, Leicester's in a similar position, strong, but yet they had a disappointing result this weekend as well.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't see anything other than the 4-3. Yeah, the 3-4-3, sorry. Containment and trying to hit them either on the counter or trying to nick an odd goal. Wouldn't be my choice personally, but I think that if we was to go to a 4-3-3, we've got more than enough to trouble Leicester. Their best centre-backs out for 3 months in Soyuncu. Get pace up against Johnny Evans and he's in the mud. Obviously the concern is Jamie Vardy, but if he's out of the game, because obviously he sat out their last one, they're saying that he's due to be fit for the clash. But if he isn't, then I said it against City, that pushes us up five yards because we're not having to worry about the pacing behind. But if you look at them on paper, we've got more than enough to beat Leicester. It's just a case of, I think it's literally the formation that is hamstringing us at the moment. And I think the quicker we ditch this formation and go to a more attacking and fluid formation, it'll be better for Arsenal and better results will come.
All right, Ryan, we're in injury time of the pod, so I'm going to give this to you. Question about let's follow up on Sam's teeing up the Leicester matchup and talking about formation, because we started this program talking about 4-3-3, kind of really hitting a wall in terms of creativity, chances created, opportunities. Pepe and Aubameyang clearly getting frustrated. Now, we know timing did not work for Arsenal, even though they got Thomas Partey in, they had him available. He had one practice with the full squad before Man City. Another week now. Is that enough time to give Mikel that flexibility? Clearly, he wants to get Thomas and Ceballos and Xhaka on the pitch together, I would think.
Yeah, I think he should have had enough time now to implement his ideas with Thomas and the rest of the team. I don't think Arteta wants to play 3-4-3. You can tell that because when we attack as a 4-3-3. I think it's defensively he's still a little bit worried because our midfield without Thomas, Ceballos and Xhaka is not the most mobile. So I think he's only playing that formation until Thomas is fully understanding of his role within the midfield. I assume, I'm only assuming here, but I think a week is enough for him to understand the basics of how Arteta wants him to play in our system. And Thomas said as well, he's a quick learner. So hopefully from Sunday, we see a 4-3-3 and start winning games more comfortably.
All right, so let's wrap it up here with some predictions. I'm going to start off. I'm going to go back, seeing what we've seen already so far this year. Some injuries, pretty fit squad. Being at home, tough team. Vardy, I'm going to assume Vardy's going to be there. I'm going to say 2-1 Arsenal. Still not totally sold. The defense is better. Still not sold on a clean sheet yet. It's still a little shaky. They still make some mistakes, but I do think being at home with Thomas, this is a week we're going to see them push out a little bit. Sam, what's your sense? How is this match going to end, in your opinion? Sorry, let's bring you back.
Help if I mute myself. 1-0 Arsenal.
1-0. Okay, a good Arsenal traditional score. Ryan, what about you?
Is this for Vienna or
This is
Leicester?
for Leicester. I'm gonna
gonna-
assume they're gonna beat Vienna. I'm not even gonna toy with that one.
So, because it's Arsenal and Jamie Vardy, I'm gonna go with 3-1 Arsenal.
Okay. You've still got that. I've got that Vardy goal up there as part of our storyline.
Happens every time.
Like right. Somehow, some way, a penalty.
Yeah.
He sneaks away. He's a quality player and he gives us trouble. But well, there you have it. So let's see which one of us is closest to the mark. I mean, I'll be happy to be wrong if one of them is right, but as long as Arsenal wins, I think we're all happy. So, okay, we want to thank you all for joining us here on the pod this week. We will be back, hopefully with better results and better news about the growth of the pod. We have a lot of dust, a lot of projects in the offing, and we're excited to share them with you. Not quite ready yet, but very, very soon. But until then, for Ryan and for Sam, I'm Raphael. Bid you a good night, and we'll see you soon.